He said I couldn't leave at dawn, but the truth was the storm had trapped me long before he ever spoke. Rain hammered against the glass towers of Midtown hard enough to blur the city into silver streaks, and by the time my phone died, my flats were soaked through and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I ran into the first open building I saw, all marble floors and quiet money, just to get warm for 5 minutes. I never meant to reach the penthouse. I definitely never meant to find a stranger standing barefoot in the dark, watching me like he already knew my name. The man did not move right away. He stood near the floor to ceiling windows with the city glowing behind him, one hand resting against the glass, his white shirt rolled to the elbows like he had been awake for hours. Up close, he looked even more dangerous for how calm he was. Not loud, not cruel, just certain. My pulse thudded in my ears as I stepped back and hit the edge of a marble counter. I managed to whisper that I was leaving. His eyes dropped to my soaked coat, then to the dark street nearly 50 stories below. "No," he said softly. "You were followed." I did not know whether to believe him, and that made everything worse. The rain kept striking the glass in hard, steady waves while I stood there dripping on a floor that probably cost more than my yearly rent. I told him he had the wrong person. I told him nobody would follow me because nobody cared enough to try. Something unreadable crossed his face then, almost like pity, and that frightened me more than his silence. He reached for a tablet on the counter, tapped the screen once, and turned it toward me. Grainy security footage showed the lobby doors opening behind me. 2 men had come in less than 10 seconds later. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grip the counter to stay steady. The footage was blurry, but not blurry enough. One man wore a dark baseball cap. The other kept looking over his shoulder like he was afraid of being seen. I heard myself ask who they were, but my voice sounded thin, distant, like it belonged to someone else. The stranger did not answer right away. He picked up a folded towel from the back of a chair and set it beside me with careful precision. Then he finally spoke, his tone low and controlled. "That depends on why they started following you 3 days ago, Claire." I had never told him my name. For one suspended second, the room felt too quiet to breathe in. My wet fingers tightened around the edge of the towel, and I stared at him like that could somehow make the answer less real. Claire, I thought, because hearing my own name in his voice had felt wrong, too familiar, too certain. I told him he was mistaken. He gave the smallest shake of his head, then stepped closer to the tablet and enlarged the image. There I was outside my office building on Tuesday, then outside the subway on Wednesday, then tonight in the storm. "You did not notice them," he said calmly. I did. Then a phone on the counter began to ring. The sound sliced through the silence and made me jump hard enough to drop the towel. He glanced at the phone once, and something in his expression changed. Not fear, not surprise, calculation. He answered on the second ring without taking his eyes off me. "Yes." That was all he said at first. Then his gaze shifted toward the rain-blurred windows, and the air in the room seemed to turn colder. "Keep them downstairs," he said quietly. "Do not let them near the elevators." My heart started pounding so fast it hurt. I took one step back. He ended the call, looked at me, and spoke with terrifying calm. "Now you understand why you're staying." I wanted to argue. I wanted to demand answers, names, proof that I had not just stumbled into some expensive version of a nightmare. Instead, I stood there shivering in wet clothes while thunder rolled somewhere above the city, and his penthouse stayed impossibly calm. He crossed to a cabinet, took out a clean blanket, and held it toward me without a word. The gesture should have made him seem less dangerous. Somehow it did not. It only made him harder to read. I took the blanket anyway, my fingers brushing soft wool, and asked the only thing that mattered now. "Who are you?" His eyes held mine. "Adrian Cross," he said. "And tonight, Claire, you are safer with me than anywhere else." His name settled over the room with a weight I could feel in my chest. Adrian Cross. It sounded like the kind of name people lowered their voices for. I wrapped the blanket around my shoulders and hated how grateful I was for the warmth. Outside, lightning flashed across the windows, turning the whole penthouse silver for half a second. That was when I saw it. Men in dark coats near the front gate, barely visible through the rain, speaking into earpieces as they looked up at the building. My breath caught. Adrian followed my stare, then reached for his jacket with unhurried precision. "Stay here," he said, and locked the door behind me. For a moment I could not move. I watched him cross the room, dark jacket in one hand, calm settling over him like armor, and I understood something that made my pulse turn uneven. Adrian was not afraid of the men outside. He was preparing for them. The penthouse door clicked shut behind him, leaving me alone with the storm, the blanket, and the sound of my own breathing. I hurried to the lock with shaking hands and turned it just like he said. Then I made the mistake of looking through the glass again. One of the men below slowly lifted his face toward my window and smiled as if he knew exactly where I was.